Her name is Tanya Burton, and she was married to Robert Tellis for 6 years. And I would imagine this story is a shock to her as it is to all of us. And Tanya Burton joins us right now on the line. Tanya, I do appreciate you coming on. How are you?
I'm good. How about you?
Doing okay, Tanya. Let me start here. It's my understanding that you met Robert Tellis many years ago. You guys were working at the same facility many years ago. Can you tell us about that? When was the first time you met him?
We were working together in Denver, Colorado at a Super Kmart. It was a second job for both of us.
So you meet him, you get to know him. I would imagine you guys date for a little while, and he proposes to you. What made you decide to marry him?
Well, Robert used to be a fun guy who made me laugh.
Mm-hmm.
We had good times together. And I don't know, it was so many years ago now, to be honest, I couldn't tell you any specifics.
Sure, no, understood. But just for clarification, you guys have a child together, right?
Yes, we do.
How old is that child now?
Our child is 14 years old.
Gotcha, 14 years old. So you were still is it fair to say you were still in contact with Robert on a regular basis, or is that not fair to say?
Yes, we have to communicate because of our child.
Okay, so let me ask you the questions that I think a lot of people want to know, and you might not know the answers to these questions, Tanya, and I appreciate you coming on. Did you see any anger, any warning signs, any substance abuse issues, anything from Robert that would lead you to believe that he would be even capable of possibly committing a heinous crime like this?
No, I never saw him as anything capable to be even close to anything like this. He was pretty law abiding, followed the rules, didn't like to skate the gray line. He was pretty even tempered. This is very shocking. This is not something I would have ever expected.
And we know that, he's running for office as a public official, and we know that he had issues with this journalist, based on, I guess he was upset with some of the articles that Jeff wrote. I mean, what was your first reaction when you heard that your ex-husband, the father of your child, was accused of murder and charged with murder? I mean, as someone who spent a lot of time around this man, what was your first reaction? What was going through your mind then and now?
At first, I assumed they made a mistake because that doesn't sound like the person that I know. I thought they got the wrong person, or maybe he made the wrong politician mad. I know he is very big in politics, and that was one of his big things he liked to be involved in. It wasn't for me. And then more and more news came out, and more stories came out, and I just watched in disbelief. I don't know what to think.
Yeah, I think we all are in shock, Tanya. You're not alone there. But obviously, you know this man. You were married to him. You had a child with him. I don't know if you can answer this question for us or not, but I would imagine your child is okay. Can you share with us I mean, I can't imagine how difficult this must be on your child. How is your child doing and going through this mess? I mean, I can't imagine what's going through your child's mind. How is your child doing?
My daughter is a very strong, brilliant child, so she's handling it as best as she can. Her entire life is going to change. We had a joint custody situation where she lived in each of our homes half the week. And based on what I saw today on the news, that's not going to happen anymore. He's facing some very big charges. And although I don't know his attorney, I don't know what they plan on doing, these charges are so large that it looks like I'm left to finish raising her alone. And that's a very sad situation for a child to not be able to have that father there for her all the time.
No question. And I'm with you on that. I sympathize with you and your daughter. Has Robert spoken to you since he's been behind bars?
I have not spoken to him. I'm not sure if he wants to speak with me. I'm not sure if it's appropriate for me to speak with him. I'm sure at some point we're going to have to speak about our daughter, but I'm not sure of when it's appropriate, when it's right, and even what to say. I have a million questions, just like the rest of the public does.
Absolutely. And as well, you should, Tanya. What did you make of that? I'm just curious. What did you make of that 2020 domestic dispute? I mean, you saw, just like we all saw. I don't know if you knew that happened when it did happen in 2020. I would imagine you probably did, and your daughter had probably filled you in. But what did you make of that? The video that came out, the 911 call. I would imagine you never had any issues like that with Robert when you guys were married, right? I mean, what did you make of that?
I mean, I could watching the video, it appeared he was intoxicated, so I don't think that was a question. But no, Robert and I did not have arguments like that. We would go to karaoke and we would drink once in a while, but it wasn't a huge part of our life at the time. And
Yeah.
we also, like I said, we had the young child when we were still together. We had a baby, so
Mhm.
we weren't out like that.
What was Robert like as a father, in your opinion?
Robert adored his daughter. And even his other daughter and his son. He loves his kids. He's a little strict. Has high expectations, and sometimes the kids didn't like that.
Yeah.
But he had the best intentions when it came to the kids. He loves them. I have no doubt. He still loves them.
So this is Thomas Moskal right here. I'm co-hosting with Brian Shapiro and Tanya. The question I have is: there were some accounts in the news media that once he came home after he had been taken into custody by the police for a certain amount of time, and he came home, that he did try to attempt to take his own life. And the news media accounts were saying that he was begging his current wife to kill him, and that the children actually had to pry him off of the wife at that point. Have you talked to your daughter anything about that? Is there truth to that?
My daughter was with me during the time that happened,
Mm.
and I have not asked the other kids about it.
Mm.
I don't think it's appropriate.
Okay.
Yeah, understood. So, Tanya, this might be a very difficult question for you to answer, but I will ask it to you. Based on the evidence of what we know that has come forward, the DNA evidence, the video evidence, have you come to the conclusion yourself as his ex-wife that my ex-husband probably did this? I mean, has that thought crossed your mind? What do you think happened? And do you think your ex-husband did do this?
That's a hard call. I watch the news every day, but as you know, the news doesn't always give both sides of the coin, and nor will his defense team put out there what they have to offer, for obvious reasons. It's very scary to me to think about the potential that he may have done this. It's scary because I lived with the man, and I wouldn't have ever thought he could scare me like that. I've been mad at him plenty of times. He's been mad at me plenty of times, but never had it ever come to an extent like this. He was never abusive. We argued, of course, all couples do, but he was not an abusive man. He was not a completely lose his temper kind of man.
I've spoken to a few of Robert's friends, and they have told me in the months prior to this situation, if in fact he did this, and I understand we don't know, you're innocent until proven guilty. They told me
Correct.
that they saw some warning signs, that he didn't seem right, that he seemed very angry and agitated in the last several months, and even in some of the interviews he's done. I know that you've remained in contact with him. And by the way, I think that's a good thing because you guys have a daughter together. It's the father of your child. That makes sense to me. You didn't see anything different at all in his personality, in the conversations you had with him in the last several months, say?
The last several months, we weren't in contact as much as we had been before. We had a disagreement, I want to say September of last year, about the way that our daughter should be raised and where she should live. So we had a change of custody hearing, and that didn't end till early February of this year. And once that ended, our conversations were pretty limited. Both of us kind of pulled away a little bit more. I think we were both a little upset over some things that came out during that hearing back and forth between us. So neither of us are, both of us just love our child, and he felt that she would be better off living with him full time. I felt she would be better off in a different situation, obviously living with me full time. And we just disagreed. So
you talk to his current wife at all? Did you guys have any relationship at all? I know that's a little strange, but have you guys spoken? Did you guys have any relationship?
Yes, we get along. We talk about the kids as well, and her daughter and my daughter are very close. They're sisters, so we have to make sure we facilitate that relationship.
Yeah. Isn't that what makes this so crazy, Tanya? I mean, there's so many levels to this. It appears as though you're a good mother. It appears from what you're telling me, pretty good father, right? Nice
Right.
family. His wife, from what I've been told from people, seemed like a pretty nice lady, a successful lady, a nice family. You seem like a very nice lady. How do we get to this point? Like it's just, to me, I can't even imagine what you're going through, but to me, as someone with a news background, this is one of the craziest stories I've ever had to cover. It seems to me, and again, it's just speculation, that if this did occur, and again, we don't know whether he did it or not, but it seems like someone that maybe just might have just snapped. I mean, you're telling me there were no warning signs. I know we had this domestic violence dispute, but he was never convicted of domestic abuse. I mean, how can you even make sense of this? I mean, I can't. I don't think anybody can, right, Tanya?
I don't, but I will say that if you say you've talked to friends who said that he was getting more angry and more angry. I mean, my biggest thing I've said even before COVID was mental health matters, and if you see someone going downward on a spiral, you need to say something. And if he truly did snap, it's really sad that none of his friends reached out to try to get him some help before that happened.
Well, I don't disagree with you there. No, I don't at all.
Tanya, I don't know if you had been following some of the articles that have been coming out about him from this reporter, Jeff Herman, about harassment in the workplace, these kinds of allegations that were going on. He was being attacked in the media. And it seems like I don't know how important this job as public administrator was to Robert. But it seemed that, these accounts that came out from the Review Journal might have cost him the primary election and could have played a big role in it.
Yeah, I could see that. And he had other political aspirations. I think public administrator was just where he planned on starting.
Right.
Yeah.
A first step.
Let me end by saying this, Tanya, and maybe you can comment on it as well. While I understand that Jeff Harber and his family, he is the victim. He lost his life, no matter who committed this crime. I'm sure you would agree with me. Thoughts and prayers go out to him and his family, but there are also other victims here. You're a victim. Your daughter's a victim. The kids are a victim. His wife is a victim. Can you just talk a little bit about that? And we need to also understand that while my thoughts and prayers go out to Jeff's family in this horrible situation, there are also other victims involved as well.
I do think that. I do think that there's a multitude of victims in this situation. Obviously, my daughter still has her life, but it's going to be very different. Unfortunately, the reporter does not have his life anymore, and that's something that can't be taken back. But there are so many other people here that are going to have to go through counseling and changes that they probably shouldn't have had to make had this situation not happened.
Sure. Anything else, Tanya, that you would want people to know? I know this is as difficult for you as it is for a lot of people. Is there anything else that you want the public to know about you, about your family, even about Robert that I haven't asked?
I'm not sure I can come up with anything else. Like I said, it's shocking to hear this happen, and it's a sad situation for everybody and for the whole politics itself. Nobody wants to see anything like this happen, but like I said, mental health matters.
Well, Tanya, I'm so sorry for you and your daughter and everybody involved in this. I do appreciate you coming on. I really do. And my heart goes out to you as well and your family. And I do appreciate your time. And if you ever want to join us again, feel free. And thank you so much for coming on with us. We really do appreciate it. Thank you, Tanya.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate
Have a good
that.
day.
You too. That is Tanya Burton, ex-wife